back again here to talk about issues with relationships and how to resolve them. And so I'm going to be trying to be a little bit more consistent, or actually, no, I'm going to try to be a lot more consistent. And I am definitely on late right now. Supposed to be on like an hour ago, but some technical stuff in the background, thumbnails, all that stuff like that, trying to get that made. Shouldn't be an issue moving forward, but I'm going to be on 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time every day, or somewhere within there, right? Either 2 o'clock. Again, I know I'm a little bit late today, but in any case, I digress. I hope you all are doing well. Hope you're having a great Saturday and that you guys are resting. But what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about what the real problem is when it comes to the conversations we're having, when it comes to those arguments that we're having, right? Because have you ever been, I'm sure if you're in any relationship, right? If you've been in a relationship, romantic relationship, I can almost guarantee that you have had either the same argument over and over and over again. And it takes different forms, right? But it comes down to the same thing over and over and over again, right? And you see the cycle, you guys blow up, you get upset, you get angry, someone brings up a concern, the other person, they start defending, all that stuff starts happening, and then boom, it blows up, things calm down, you guys come back together, give it another period of time, and then boom, it happens again. And unfortunately, a lot of relationships end because of this cycle, not because they don't love each other, not because they don't have similar interests, not because they believe different things, but because this cycle continues to happen. Right. And so what does it look like? Right. You might have a small issue that blows up into something big. What you thought, hey, I wanted you to go to one grocery store instead of the other one. How come you didn't go to the other one? Oh, why is it such a big deal? I can't just go to anything, right? Like I can it's just on the way home from work. And now all of a sudden now it's blowing up. Right. Oh, hey, I forgot to tell that bill. Yeah, I had to get paid. Oh, you're just telling me this now and did it, and now it blows up into something that's small, right? A small issue escalates into a big argument. Right? What are some other issues that take place, right? Like that we have issues with that create this cycle, misunderstandings, which is funny because we say we know our partner, but then when we try to communicate with them, they say, you don't understand me, right? Or we say, I don't understand you, right? So they have this dissonance there where we think we know our partner, right? Because we're watching their behaviors and see what they're doing on the outside. But for whatever reason, when we have a conversation with them, guess what? It doesn't go anywhere, right? We end up in the same cycles over and over and over again. Right? And what are some other things that happen? Of course, a big one is defensiveness. There's times we're defensive, we don't even know we're defensive. But what ends up happening, right? Someone brings up a concern and you hit them with a me too. And it doesn't come out like a me too, but they're like, yeah, I'm really unhappy in the relationship, and it's been like that for such a long time. And then we say, yeah, I've been unhappy in the relationship too. Right. That you might think, oh, we're just trying to, talk about it's at the same time. That's actually not what's happening. That's actually a form of defensiveness because the other person's not going to be heard in that moment. And so now we're going back and forth, and now we're just listening to defend our point of view. Now we're just listening to see how we're innocent, right? Right. We're defending ourselves, right? We're listening to defend, we're listening to respond, we're listening to reflect responsibility. Yeah. So that defensiveness kicks in, and we wonder why we end up in the same arguments, the same cycles over and over and over and over again. And then one of the other things is assumptions. So we make all these assumptions about our partner's behavior, or what they do or what they say, and we're not seeking the facts to fill in the gaps, right? We're not asking questions to do that. So we make this assumption. We paint this picture of a person, and unfortunately, what we do is we paint a picture of them as our enemy. We paint them a picture of them as someone who's trying to hurt us, someone who's trying to attack us, someone who's trying to not understand us, or trying to manipulate us, or trying to gaslight us. They're narcissists, or this, or that, and everything else. We literally create that story in our mind with very limited information. And you might say, well, Keith, I try to ask questions, or I know them, and all these things like that. But I'm going to tell you this right now. We as people are extremely intricate. There are so many inner working parts of each and every one of us. all the little connections that come from our past and interactions that have shifted us in a massive way that sometimes the person themselves is not even aware of. A lot of times, your significant other, the person you're with, your husband, your wife, a lot of times they're doing things they're not even aware of why they're doing them. They're not aware that it comes from when they were children, or when they were traumatized as children. They're not aware of it was an interaction they had with a teacher. They're not aware of it was because their parents weren't showing up or whatever. They're not even aware of that. They're not even aware of it, and so they're just moving and operating and thinking that, oh well, everything is good. You know, I'm not the crazy one. You're the crazy one. You're the one blowing things out of proportion. And so what we end up doing is we start making up these assumptions. We start making up this story. We start taking it personal. This happens with almost, I don't know who it doesn't happen with, honestly. Because if you don't actually have it, like the skills and learn like how to actually deal with people and understand not to take things personal. And by the way, if you want a great book on that, is The Four Agreements. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on that, but that's a phenomenal book. Strongly recommend it for anybody who wants to really do better in their relationship, and not just relationship, but even in life. But long story short, we default to taking things personal. And it's not a choice. A lot of times, sometimes our significant other will think that, oh, you're just choosing to be offended, or you're choosing to be hurt, or you just want to play the victim, or you just want to do this, you just want to do that. No one's sitting there thinking that. I need you to grasp this right now. No one wakes up in the morning and says, how can I make my spouse's life a living hell? Where can I really stir the pot today? Where can I just really stick it to them? I really want to see them get upset. No one's thinking that. I promise you, no one wakes up thinking that. You know what people do end up thinking after a big argument, after being shut down, being dismissed, being invalidated, being accused, all these things like that? You know what they do think after it, whether there's resolution or not? How did I get here? How did it even get this bad? Why does it always end up like this? We're trying to pick up the pieces after the argument, the pieces of our heart, the pieces of our mind, our confidence, our boundaries, our faith. Some of us question God. Like, how did I get here? God, why did you allow this? That's what ends up happening. But no one wakes up choosing violence, right? These are learned behaviors, subconscious behaviors that people are not aware of. And so but unfortunately, what we do is we take things personal. And this isn't a dig on anybody, but the fact of the matter is what happens is this is how you keep yourself safe. Because your brain says, we don't have all the information. So first, let's make it about us, right? We're under attack. We're being misunderstood. We're being hurt. They're trying to do this to us. And now that we have a focal point, now we know how to defend ourselves. And what do we do to defend ourselves? We start building up resentment. Resentment is a defense mechanism to keep us safe. What it does is it paints someone in a horrible light. It expects the worst from them. And then now, once we have our target, once we have our enemy, now we know how to defend against them. That's why we take things personal. So it's not a choice. Your partner is not making that choice, right? Your wife, your husband's not making that choice. This is something that happened. And if we're not aware of that, then it's going to continue to happen over and over and over again. We're going to take things personal. They're going to take things personal. We're going to keep bumping heads. Small things are going to blow up into big things. But the thing is, it's not the argument. See, when I work with couples in sessions, I don't focus on let's work on every single little issue that comes up along the way and resolve it and then wait to the next one. I don't do that. I go to where the root of the issue is, and that is the meaning. What is the meaning behind what this person is bringing up? That's where I go to, and that's what you need to go to. If you really want to break these cycles, if you really want to stop having these arguments, stop blowing up and going over and over and over in the same thing, if you really want to be connected and be in love and truly grow together, then you got to get to the meaning behind why your partner's bringing up whatever it is they're bringing up. Don't just focus on, well, let me just solve this one problem. Because listen, I know if you've been in a relationship, I can guarantee it. Your partner brings up an issue, and then it's like, well, I'm gonna fix that issue. And then you fix that, and then they bring up another one, and then you fix that. And then it's another one. And it seems like it's never enough. They keep saying the same thing. You don't care about me, you don't love me, you don't look at me as important, you don't appreciate me. They keep saying the same thing. You're like, I don't understand what you mean. You say I don't appreciate you and I don't love you, but everything you ask of me, I do it. So that should that should put us at a full stop. Like, okay, something's not right here. You asked me to make this change, I made it. You asked me to make this change, I made it. And this one, and this one, and I made all these changes, and you're still saying I don't care about you, I don't love you. What's going on? We need to stop and start asking that question. And so if you really want to get to the meaning, there's a few things that you guys can do, that we can do. I don't want to say just you guys, because listen, anything I talk about on here, I promise you I do it myself. I promise you I do it myself, right? Because if it works, then why would I want to work into my own marriage? Why wouldn't I want peace and love and harmony and connection and understanding in my own marriage? Of course I'm going to do it in my own marriage. And so I'm telling you, this stuff works. So the first thing you really want to start breaking this down. The first thing you want to do is, for one, don't take things personal. Recognize that your partner had a whole past long before you came along, where certain beliefs, certain behaviors, certain coping mechanisms, all those things were created long before you came along. See, the way your partner acts with you, the way your husband, your wife acts with you, that was learned a long time ago. And if they never changed it, if they never looked back and said, okay, I need to heal from my past hurts, my past traumas, if they never done that, then they're running on age-old programming. I tell you this, even from a therapeutic point of view, what ends up happening for a lot of us, what you do is you think you're in a conversation with someone that's, your typical age, right? Your peer. What we fail to realize is, if we have not healed from our past trauma and our past hurt, wherever that hurt or that trauma took place at, we're going to go back to? We're going to go right back that same age. So now when we're in an argument, it's not a 41-year-old Keith and a 47-year-old Jamie that's having an argument. It's my wife, right? No. Our unhealed stuff, we go right back to, no, that's the 7-year-old Keith. That's the 10-year-old Jamie. The ones that didn't feel safe, the ones that didn't feel heard, the ones that felt dismissed, the ones that felt invalidated. That's where it goes back to. And so now what do? We get mad, we get angry, blow up, all those things like that. So it's critical for us, one, to do the work on ourselves first and foremost, but to not take things personal, because it's not about you. It's about what this person has been through. I remember, share this quick story. I remember one time, me and my wife, we were having a good conversation, getting understanding and things of that nature. She was apologizing for some things, and not that we had an argument, but just some real revelations that have taken place through a conversation we've had. And she was like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry about that." And she was like, "Was anything from the past that we need to talk about and work through, and things like that of times when I did X, Y, Z that I might still be holding on to?" Right. So ultimately, what she was saying was, "Is there anything that I can resolve from the past that I have done to hurt you?" And I told her, I said, "Babe, it wouldn't even be fair for me to go back to those moments, because I was a disaster too. And there's a lot of those moments that I caused, because I wasn't listening, because I was becoming defensive, because I was taking things personal. So I can't go back and objectively say, yeah, when this happened, when you did this, it made me feel this way, because I know for sure there was a lot of stuff that I caused in the early part of our marriage and when we were younger." So right now, what do? I say, okay, well, we're not going to take it personal, right? I had to heal. You had to heal. We don't take it personal. All right. So that's the first step. Don't take anything personal. Know that however your spouse responds, know that for sure it's from something that happened in their past. Now, I'm not saying that we can't do things to offend the other person. I'm not saying that, right? Right. What I am saying is, what we can control, the only things we can control are ourselves and how we respond to others. That's it. That's all we can control. What we do and how we respond to others. It's kind of the same thing, right? It's all kind of in what we do. And once we realize that, it's a topic for another time, but once we realize that, you can really get a lot of change. But long story short, don't take things personal. All right, the second thing, facts versus assumptions. I was telling you about how resentment is built. Resentment is built heavily off assumptions. And I always tell people, right? There's no need ever to assume. You're in a relationship and you have access to the person, there's never a need to assume. The only time we would need to assume is if we have to make a decision for somebody and we don't have access to them. That's the only time we should assume. That's it. And now with AI, honestly, if we could get people's information in there, we could probably get a really good, accurate description of what decision they want to make. But again, topic for another time. But long story short, in our relationships, we spend so much time assuming what someone means, assuming what their intention was, assuming that they don't love us, assuming they don't care, assuming all these things. We have all this time assuming. And the crazy part is we have access to the information if we just take time to ask questions to understand, not to respond, not to defend, not to deflect, not to me to them, but I really want to understand where you're coming from. I really want to know the meaning behind what's causing you to bring this up. I want to know the emotions behind that. I want to know the reason behind that. I want to know the request. I want to know the history and how you got there. You do understand that when it comes to understanding, that's where intimacy and love, that's where all that exists. That's where closest exists. You understand that any relationship, think about any relationship you have in your life, and you think about the people that you are the absolute closest to. And I can guarantee with 100% accuracy, the people that you're closer to are the people that have a better understanding of you. They have a desire to understand you. They listen to you. They don't judge you. They accept you for who you are. They pour into you. So you pour into them. There's an understanding there. So in our romantic relationships, we have to focus on understanding. And we get understanding by taking time to ask questions and putting our own thoughts and feelings and emotions on the back burner for a second. Instead of trying to defend ourselves and look for points to attack back. And this isn't a debate. This is not a debate. I tell my couples as well, the only time that we're not focusing on understanding is if we're debating something. Right? In a debate, my job is to destroy the other person. In a debate, my job is to either be right or make you wrong. And my job is to win. In a relationship, if you're having a conversation with your spouse, there is no winning. You understand that? The only winning there is when both of you understand one another. That's it. The only winning there is if your spouse brings up a concern and you take time to understand that concern. Now, you focus on that one issue, that one topic, that one problem at a time, and you understand where they're coming from, and you empathize with them, and you validate them. That is a win. But there is no winning in an argument. There is no, well, I got more facts than you, or there's no, it doesn't work. Because even if you win, you still lose because you missed the point. Because now there's no understanding, and now there's separation. And guess what? Guess what being right or winning gives you? It doesn't give you closeness. It doesn't give you intimacy. It doesn't give you someone empathizing with you. It doesn't give you anything like that. Nothing at all. It gives you an empty bed. It gives you an empty table that you sit at by yourself. It gives you doing things by yourself. It gives you eventually either separation or divorce. It gives you being broke. That's what constantly focusing on being right and winning gives you. Focus on understanding. Focus on, even if it takes time, hey, listen, I'm really trying to understand where you're coming from. Right. So I'm going to ask these questions. I'm not trying to get you to prove that what you feel is accurate. I'm not the judge. And that's a big thing as well. A lot of times we ask questions from a place of superiority. No, if your thing doesn't make sense, then your feelings aren't valid or your thoughts aren't valid. So it has to make sense to me. And I have to agree with it in order to validate it. No, that's not how any of this works. It's how any of this works. No, if they're feeling something, even if it's based off poor information, right? So let's say I'll give you guys an example. Let's say your spouse comes home and they are irate with you because you didn't answer your phone. They come in like, you know what? I was trying to call you. I was trying to get in touch with you. And the phone call, you didn't answer your phone and you always do this. And then they just start going in, right? They start going in, right? But what they didn't know was that the phone calls weren't coming through. It looked like it was coming through on their end, but it didn't come through on your end. So now you're looking confused. Naturally, what do? We start arguing back, right? What are you talking about? You didn't call me and it didn't come through. I don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy. You're doing it again. And you're always trying to start problems and see, look at you blowing up and the kids are here. And now it's just a big explosion, right? It's a big thing. Big fight. But what happened? It's a simple misunderstanding. Your wife came in. She thought she thought the calls came through, right? She felt like you weren't paying attention. She felt like you weren't listening. So, and this is the part I'm talking about. This is why you don't have to necessarily agree, even if it's based off of poor information. Because what you can say is, whoa, babe, time out. What's going on? What's going on? Just take a moment. I was trying to get in touch with you because we had to sign these forms and because I couldn't get in touch with you, couldn't sign, and then this happened, and all these things like this, right? Slowing things down. All right, babe, whoa, babe, hey, whoa, what's going on? Oh, yeah, the forms. Oh man, yeah, you're right. Give me a second. Let me. I promise I'm sorry. I really apologize. Honestly, I didn't know you were trying to call. I've been on my phone the whole time and nothing came through. I promise you, right? But I definitely understand why you'd be upset. Of course, you don't want to be. Who no one wants to be ignored, and this is really important. What just happened right there? What just happened right there? Same poor information, same emotion. She's dealing with the same emotions, the same poor information, all that same stuff. What was the difference though? The difference is there's validation. I don't have to agree. And that's the thing. You don't have to agree to empathize. You don't have to agree to validate. That's not what validation is. And more often than not, your people aren't asking you to agree with them. They're just asking you to say, see, I need you to see me. That's what validation does. Validation says, I see you. You are valuable. You are important. I may not agree with you, but I definitely see you. I definitely see. That's it. Now, there are some people, little star, that they will say they want validation, but they really want agreement. And that's a conversation needs to be had, because once you validate and say, hey, I understand where you're coming from. And, hey, I understand why you would feel that way. Hey, I don't necessarily see it that way, but hey, I get where you're coming from. And then they now start trying to push the issue to get you to agree with them, which is a problem, because you shouldn't be trying to force someone to agree with you. Right. But again, I'm not talking for another time, but I just wanted to say, generally speaking, right, that validation, that empathy goes a very, very long way, even if it's based off poor information, because what you do in that case is like, I could see why that would be frustrating for you. I could see why that would make you upset. I don't want to see you upset, babe. I don't want you to think I don't care about you, because I care about you. I love you. Babe, it's just a misunderstanding. Something was wrong with the phones. The call never went through. I don't know. Maybe it was bad reception, or maybe I don't know. I don't know what happened, but but I definitely love you and care about you. I'm not going to ignore you. Right? What was the meaning behind that? The meaning was like, I want to know that, someone cares about me. Right? I want to know that I'm seen. That's the whole crux of that conversation she was having, was it felt like I was being ignored. And depending on her past, maybe she felt like she was being rejected or something along those lines. But the fact of the matter is, you get down to the meaning, there's no need for arguments. There's no need for, guess what? Now she's calm. Now you know what she does? Because all people always say, oh, women don't like to take accountability, things like that. That's not true. I've seen it time and time again. When there's validation, there's empathy. When apologies come back the other way, I experienced my own relationship as well. When there's validation, when there's empathy, the apologies come back. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have came at you that way. I shouldn't have called you that. I shouldn't have said that. Oh man, I feel so bad now. Is there anything I can do to make it up to you? All that stuff, it comes because now she feels safe. Now she feels seen. Now she feels heard, validated, and understood. Right. So it's so critical to focus on the understanding, the connecting in that way. Right. Validating, empathizing. It's critical. I tell my couples all the time. All the time. You got to validate. You got to validate. You got to validate. You got to empathize and validate. Empathize and validate. You've got to. So now the clarifying questions. Key. Don't ask why. Why is too vague. It's too hard to answer. Do not ask why. What, where, when, how. Ask those questions. Those are the questions you want to ask. Why? Because you can get the same question. You say, well, Keith, you just asked why. Just follow me, right? I'm not in a relationship with you, okay? So, because you can get the same information and it's much more direct. What happened? Hey, where'd you go? How did you get in? When did you arrive? Those are very concrete things we can answer. When you start asking why, could you get those same answers? Yes, but it's really big, really vague, so it's hard to come to that conclusion, right? That answer that you're looking for. So when you're asking those clarifying questions, make sure you're asking, hey, I'm just really trying, and you can even preface it with this, because sometimes for some people, depending on your demeanor, it can come off as an interrogation. So preface it with this and be calm and cool and collected in the moment. Hey, I want to ask you some questions so I can better understand where you're coming from. I really want to understand what you're trying to tell me right now, because what you're saying is important. What you're saying is valid. I really want to understand it, because right now, what you just kind of brought to me, I didn't really understand where you were coming from. So important. And then the other side of that is important as well. Use I statements. Don't use you statements. If you come in and the person, you're the person with the issue, right? And you're speaking to your spouse, and all you're talking about is you don't do this and you don't do that, and you always do this and you always do that. And if you were a real man and a real woman would, and that's one of the best ways to never be understood and never be heard. That's one of the best ways. If you never want to be heard, or you never want to be understood, go in with you statements. I promise you. Try it. Try it. Try going into a conversation using you statements and just see, will you actually be understood? I can guarantee with 100% accuracy, you will not. I'm going to tell you why. Because you're not talking about yourself. You're not talking about what you feel. You're not talking about what you think. You're not talking about your perspective. You're not talking about your experiences. You're not talking about what caused you to feel that way. All you're doing is attacking the other person. I'm not attacking them, Keith. I'm just telling them what they did and how they. No, I'm telling you right now, you're attacking the other person. I can guarantee it. If you show this, if you and your spouse are watching this right now, great. But I can guarantee if you're watching by yourself and you go show your spouse and you show them this part right here, I can guarantee they'll say, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I feel like I'm under attack. When you come to me with an issue or a problem, it feels like I'm under attack. That's what it feels like. Why? Because you're using you statements. You're focused on you didn't do, and you didn't, you and you and you, and if you, and then you. That's attacking the person. Even if the person is calm, here's the other part of it. How can they understand where you are coming from? How can they understand your perspective? How can they understand anything about you when you don't talk about yourself in that moment? How can they understand what you're feeling if you don't talk about your feelings? Side note, feelings and thoughts are two different things. Because a lot of times I'll ask people, what does that make you feel? And they'll start talking about what they think. And on top of that, they'll mix what they think with you statements. So now I'm getting zero information about them. I have to kind of reel them back in. So when you start using you statements, just pause. Just pause. Be like, you know what? Hey, let me take that back, because that's not going to be helpful. Hey, this is what I'm experiencing. Hey, when I came home, when I was trying to call you, I should say, when I was trying to call you and I couldn't get through, that made me feel like, for one, panicked, because I was trying to get this thing done and we couldn't get it done. It was really important. But it also made me feel sad. It made me feel hurt, because it made me feel like I wasn't important. It made me feel like I wasn't important enough for you to answer the phone. And I knew that you were off work at that time. So that's what it made me feel. Yeah. And what I would want is I would want, like, if I'm calling you repeatedly, I would want you to be able to answer the phone. Right? So you make that request at the end, right? Because when you answer the phone, makes me feel like I'm important. Like makes you feel like, and it might be small to you, but it makes me feel like I'm important. Like you care about me. Which is going to draw me closer to you, because whatever your request is, you got to make sure your request encompasses how it's going to benefit everybody, because that's the relationship is, like the Bible says, the two shall become one, right? So, the request, whatever you make, it helps both people, not just one person. So that's important to understand as well. But that's using I statements right there. That's my system. I call it the yes sir system, where the sir part is using I statements. I talk about the situation, I state my emotion, I state the reason, and then I state the request. And I keep it real nice, real clean, real simple, real easy, so that the person knows exactly where you're coming from. Right. So it's just really important to start, again, the clarifying questions. Great to ask those questions. Really, really great to ask those questions so that you can actually understand where the person's coming from. But the person who's speaking, who's bringing up the concern, you really got to make sure you're using those I statements so that you can be understood, so they can connect with you. Right? A couple more, which is really tied up. And these actually, to be honest, like these are kind of tied up in everything we talked about already. I was talking about just being curious, instead of coming to conclusions. As your job as a listener is not to come to a conclusion. That's not your job. Your job is to just listen, to understand, to get enough information, and you summarize and confirm it back with the other person. Hey, from all the stuff that you told me, this is what it seems like, you're thinking, you're feeling, and what you want, right? And you just confirm it. Hey, is that right? Is that correct? Is that what you're trying to tell me? And they'll confirm it with you. They already have the conclusion. They know what they want, right? So let them come to conclusion. Your job is not to come to conclusion. Your job is just to be curious and ask questions. Because again, the whole idea is I'm trying to understand you. I want to connect with you. I don't want to hurt you. We don't get into relationships with the intention to hurt the other person. We just don't, unless someone's like a, you know, sick person. I got to be careful what I say on here, because I know they can bleep stuff out and shut things down. So, in certain cases, obviously that. But generally speaking, I'm talking about people in general, right? No one's trying to hurt anybody. No one wants someone else to be unhappy. No one. I don't know any guy. I've never come across a client. I've never crossed a friend or anybody that says, "Man, you know what? I really love that. Really just gets me going. Makes me feel like a man. Makes me feel good when my wife is just depressed and crying in the room. Man, I love that. It's like my day is made. Woo! Absolutely love that. Never heard a man say that ever, ever. Never heard a woman say, "You know what? What just turns me on and gets me going, makes me feel great when my husband completely ignores me and he wants nothing to do with me, or when he yells at me. Oh, and he's so angry and frustrated and he goes off drinking. Oh man, I love that. So excited about that." Said no woman ever. So we have to get these ideas out of our head that, oh, they're just trying to start trouble, or they just don't care, or all these things. No, they don't. It comes down to the meaning. It comes down to trying to understand one another. That's what it comes down to. So we have to focus on being curious. If we're the person that's listening, we're curious, right? I'm yielding the floor. I'm not giving my opinion on your feelings or your thoughts in the situation. I'm not giving my opinion, because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to listen, empathize, validate, summarize, confirm. That's what I'm here to do. I might even think, you could even think in your mind, oh, here she goes again. Why is she bothered by this? This is a simple solution. Just stop hanging around those people at work. The woman doesn't like you. Why are you still leave that on the back burner? Yeah. Well, if and in your mind, oh well, I would if she did, and all this. That's not what we're talking right now. It's time to listen. It's time to validate. It's time to empathize. Then I summarize and confirm back what that's what it's time for. I promise you, your conversations are going to shrink to a very, very short period of time. Instead of those 45-minute, 2-hour, 3-hour, 5-day arguments that you're used to having, and then it takes all this time afterwards to de-escalate and come back together. So you could eliminate the arguments altogether. You could be closer. You're not going to have bad weeks. You're not going to have bad months. You're not going to have, listen, you won't even have a bad day. What you'll have, you might have little moments. But guess what? With the right communication, with the right listening, and the repair attempts and things like that, that moment is a form of connection. When you really get this down, you'll never be scared of conflict. You'll never be scared of speaking your mind, because once you get this down, every single time there's some type of disagreement, it's going to draw you closer together. Every single time. And you're going to look back 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now. You're like, man, we've had a great life. We're so connected. We're so like, no one can get in there. So be curious, ask questions, get to know your partner, get to know your significant other, your wife, your husband, get to know them. And the last thing is slow down your reactivity. Practice breathing, practice meditation. I'm not going to go into all that now, but practice that. Progressive muscle relaxation, practice it on a regular basis, so that when that moment comes in, the person comes in fire hot, right? She bursts in the door. Using that example again. She bursts in the door. Why didn't you answer your phone? I've been calling you, and it's it. You might be, but just take a breath, slow it down. Just woosah, slow it down, right? And as we slow it down, it's like, okay, what's going on? Let me try to figure out what's going on. Let me figure out what's going on, because it's very difficult for us to be empathetic and listen if we're activated ourselves. If our fight or flight kicks in, at that point, you can't really have a conversation, because when fight or flight kicks in, your brain's like, we are under attack, time to defend ourselves. We're under threat. And now let me also share this with you as well. Your brain views conflict like that, where we're dysregulated, as an actual threat to your life. Every argument you have that's like that, the reason why it gets so intense is because your brain is like, we're going to die. There is no gray area there. Your brain's like, either things are nice and calm and comfortable and, beautiful and everything like that, or it's like, we're going to die. Like that's it. It only has two modes, right? And it doesn't take much to get here, because your brain's job is to keep you alive. And if you're not doing any type of mental training, if you're not doing any like emotional regulation and emotional intelligence things, if you're not doing that to train your brain and gratitude and all that, if you're not doing that, your brain's going to default to that mode more often than not. If you don't tell your brain how it needs to operate and what it needs to do, your brain's going to go to that mode every single time. And once we get into that fight or flight, there is no conversation to be had. In those moments, that's when we say, hey, I need a timeout, because I'm getting too escalated. I need to get out of here. And it's not asking for permission. That's a key part as well. It's not asking for permission. I know when we were children, we had to sit there and listen to authority. You had to listen to your parents berate you and demean you and dismiss you. You had to listen to your teachers do that, and your principal and all these adults in your life, your coaches. You couldn't walk away from the disrespect that was being given to you, the invalidation that was being given to you. And unfortunately, we got trained so well in that mode that even when we get into relationships and we need to walk away before things escalate, we don't. Because we're trained to stay in the same spot and receive that treatment, even if we don't like it. But the day I learned that I can actually walk away, I can actually advocate for myself and say, well, I can't do this right now. This conversation, I can't do this right now. I'm getting escalated. I'm getting up, and I got to walk away. And sometimes, in the past, my wife she wouldn't agree. She'd be mad. She would say, I'm being a bully and trying to control the conversation and things like that. In that moment, I did not have time to explain to her what was going on, because DEFCON 5 was about to be activated. And once I get there, it's game over. There is no bringing me back, right? So I had to start walking away. So it's the same thing for you guys. If you know yourself, and that's why breathing and meditation and progressive muscle relaxation are so great, because once you learn that baseline and okay, I'm starting to get escalated, you don't have to worry about getting to fight or flight anymore. Because you feel it in your body. Okay, I'm starting to get there. This is the fight or flight. It's like, I'm starting to get there. You know what? Let me stop there, because I don't want to blow up. I don't want to yell. I don't want to scream. I don't want to do these things, right? So it's really important, really, really, really important, right, for us to make sure we slow things down. And as we slow things down, then we'll be able to respond accordingly. So that's all I got. Guys, I apologize, but I get into the chat. I didn't have it up on the side. Emily, it was great to see you. Thank you so much. Jake, same thing, man. Great to see you. Thank you so much. Guys, listen, share this with someone that you care about, that you love, share it with your significant other, because again, my goal is to save relationships. My goal is to teach us how to do it the right way so we can get the love and the understanding that we're looking for. That's my goal, right? Because we know that strong relationships build strong families build strong communities build a strong nation. And then especially with our children too. One of the greatest gifts we can give our children is a great, healthy relationship. That's one of the best gifts we can give them, where they can see what real, unconditional love looks like. When they can see what it looks like to communicate properly. When they can see that it's okay. We don't have to be perfect, right? So that's the mission I'm on. That's the mission I'm on. So share this around, and guys, if you need any help or anything along those lines, please reach out and let me know. You have any questions or anything like that, my contact information is pretty much all over the place. So if you need to reach out to me, you can email me, text me, call me, whatever the case may be. Or if you have any questions you'd like me to address on a future live stream, please let me know. But yeah, I'm trying to help people. I really want to see relationships thrive. I know what it's like to be on the bad end of things, and I'm thankful to God that there was a grace and the mercy and the learning and everything like that, because now I absolutely love my wife. I'm so happy that I didn't make emotional decisions back then to leave, because it's allowed me to get to a spot now where we're so close and we're so connected that, man, I wouldn't want to be with anybody else. Couldn't be with anybody else. Couldn't see myself with anybody else. And I promise you can have that exact same thing. Even if you guys have been at each other's throats for years, I promise you, when you do the work, you can get the same thing. So wrap it up here, guys. Listen, the real problem is not the argument. The real problem is not that surface level stuff. The real issue is finding the meaning. What's the meaning behind the issue that's being brought up? You find that meaning, you'll solve the issue altogether. Y'all take care. Have a great, awesome, blessed day. And remember, you are not